What's up, everybody? Ryan from BrainJerk, episode 10, Pillar Talk Reloaded. I'm here with a very special guest.
Oh man, it's
Most
a
of you guys
pleasure.
know him.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Actually,
Tino
you know
Amaya.
what? Believe it or not, a lot of people don't know me, and I like it that way.
We've
I
had that
built
conversation, haven't we?
I built my career that way, man. Hell yeah.
That's pretty cool. So listen, guys, this is our first episode in partnership with the Monroe County Reporters. I know everybody knows them, Shane Neckel and Ryan Mink. So big shout out to them. So actually, Pillar Talk Reloaded is brought to you by BrainJerk and the Monroe County Reporters, and sponsored by some of my great sponsors back here on our wall. Our pillars, Little Brown Jug, of course, Amaya's, IWR, 8 Mile, Mugsy's in the Sports Center, Deb's Floral. Shout out to Deb Stalegrave.
Shout out to Deb.
Lane's Pizza, good Brandon down there doing his thing, man.
Yeah,
It's
man.
really just pushing the envelope, man.
You know what? I'm so proud of him, man, because and I don't even know him well. I met him through you guys, but dude, I love seeing that grind. I absolutely love it.
We love Brandon. Honestly, I knew him from past life or whatever, years before, but not on a level like this.
Yeah.
But Brandon's a great guy, and he's got a lot of great energy and going to bring a lot to this town.
Now, was that all the?
And then RPW.
Oh,
of course,
gotcha.
Ruthless Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
So, and Pro Wrestling Edge, I forgot to mention also. We have you with those guys. So
nice.
Man. Great sponsors, great team.
Yeah.
What's
You
up
guys,
with Mr. Tino?
you know what, man? Listen, I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things. For those people that don't know, I was sick for a little bit.
That was scary.
Yeah, it was. It was a little scary, but you know what? Hey, man, doing good. I'm back working, I'm back on my grind. But it's funny when you get sick. Depending on like what the health situation is. In my case, I was down for almost a month and a half, like literally in my house, from the couch to the bathroom to the lazy boy. You know what I mean? That was kind of my circle. And you get a chance to really, reflect, introspect, right? You get that opportunity to kind of like start looking back over things. And, for a while there, I was all over the place. I had my hands in a lot of different things that we've now kind of cut off. And now we're just kind of refocusing on our space and our things and the businesses and kind of refocusing on the family. That's about it.
Beautiful. That's all you can do. I found my work and life balance. I think now
there's no such thing. I'm here to tell you there's no such thing.
Found it. Best it's gonna get.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Best it's gonna get.
No, yeah.
Coming to the office. It's nice having the office, and we've got it built up. Obviously, we're in here now and got it built up. We're nice and comfortable where we can do business and we can still pleasure kids and the puppies, and everybody can come up and do their thing. So definitely cool, man.
Yeah, that's unique, man. So, and it's been fun. I've been in Monroe now. Oof. I guess for those of you that don't know me, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. How about I do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Good? All right. I moved to Monroe in 1997.
Let's go back. Where were you before that?
Before that, I was in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I was opening restaurants. So to go back, I was actually, I was born in Toledo.
Okay.
That's why I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan. Don't anybody murder me out there. But I grew up, the tail end of Woody Hayes and Earl Bruce took over, and Art Schleister was like the quarterback that I wanted to be when I was a kid, even though I'm only 5'2". No, I'm a little taller than that, but you know what I'm saying. But no, I grew up in Toledo, and when I was like 12, I started working at my grandma's restaurant. My grandparents, could barely speak a lick of English. My grandpa could barely speak English, but dude, they took a chance. My grandma used to make food for the migrant camps. My grandpa would take the food out there and he'd sell them. You got to go back to like the late 70s, early 80s, right? And tacos were like 10 cents, 15 cents a taco.
Mm-hmm.
But my grandma would cook the food, and everyone kept talking about how great my grandma's food was. Her name was Dencha Soto. She just passed away a few years ago. But her and my grandpa Juan, they would take the food out to the migrants. My grandpa would sell it. And every day my grandma was up cooking. And we had a pretty big family. So I grew up with them, literally like living with my grandparents in different various times of my childhood. And so I grew up cooking with my grandma. I mean, it was,
You were cooking a lot then. If they
oh,
were,
dude, I was, yeah. I
that's
mean, I
what they
was
did.
like starting from, I mean, literally cooking in my grandma's kitchen with her. I was probably 8 or 9, but then they opened this restaurant when I was like right around 11, going on 12. And, we were old Catholics, we were good Catholics. So we didn't go to church ever, except for, the holidays and certain Sundays. But, we had gone to church one Sunday and came back, and we were stopping at my grandparents' little tiny restaurant, Los Amigos. It's still there, north end of Toledo, right off of Clay and Stickney.
Check
But
that out.
dude, yeah. Well, we'll get into that.
Okay,
But
get off track here.
yeah. But so we walk in and the place is packed. It's just a tiny little hole in the wall taqueria. But the place was packed, and my grandma's running around. In our family, one of the most attractive qualities you can have in our family is your work ethic. Period. You could be a dog, you could be ugly, doesn't matter. If you're a hard worker, you're the most beautiful creature on the planet. You know what I mean? So I mean, look at me, man. I'm not the best looking guy, but I'll tell you what, I can work. But so we get there, and my grandma's running around, and my mom says, hey, what's going on? And my aunts, were running around, and everybody's kind of helping out. And my grandma said, they were short staffed in the kitchen. So I go back, and my mom right away has me take off my little jacket, my little tie, my white shirt. I've got a little t-shirt on underneath. And she said, go back and help your grandpa. I go back there. My grandpa's washing dishes. And that's where they stuck me, right next to my grandpa, washing dishes, racking them up, putting the plates back on the line. And, something crazy happened that day, man. I fell in love with being in the kitchen. I fell in love with that chaos. I fell in love with the hustle and bustle. I fell in love with the language, it was stressful, but it was funny. It was, hot and sticky and nasty, and everybody smelled like BO, but it was the most amazing,
right.
Smells and scents that I'd had, like, as a child. And
Sure.
still to this day, I mean, it haunts me. I just remember it, and not haunting in a bad way. I mean, it's like, it's just a really cool memory to keep. But I never left. I never left the kitchen.
Yeah,
I mean,
see.
I started, I started after school. I would walk to the restaurant and be like, Grandma, can I, you help washing dishes? And of course, I mean, my grandma was
Yeah.
like, yeah, and back then, we didn't, it's not like we were making 10, $11 an hour. I mean, my
Right.
grandma would give me like $5, and, I felt like I had a ton of money. I was like, oh
Sure.
my God, $5, like, man, but, that's kind of how I got my start, man. I got
That's
my start
awesome.
with them, and, then kind of moved on from there.
So you were in Toledo till when? When did you finally leave
Um,
the nest?
so my dad's job took us to Mexico.
That's what I want to get into, because
Yeah.
I know some of this, but I don't know where in the timeline.
Yeah. So like right around 19, I want to say it was 88.
How old were you?
At that point, I was let's see, what was I, 15? Yeah, I was 15. Go
15.
16, going on 16 in 88.
Headed to
Yeah.
Mexico.
And so, it was a little bit of a culture shock growing up in Toledo. Now all of a sudden, we're being shipped to Mexico. And, my dad was like, this is going to be the best thing for the family. And it really, to some degree it was. My brother and I, my older brother and I, we were not very good kids. We grew up in a very poor area of Toledo, the North End. Shout out to all my North End peeps. I'm still great friends with a lot of them, Keith Jordan and, Lori Lipper. Well, now she's Barco, but, Sarah Covarrubias. I mean, man, all these kids, Jerry LaPlante, one of my great friends, Paul Emerson. I'm going to get some names in here, but
I love it.
I grew up with all these guys, and here's the cool thing about it, where we grew up as a true melting pot, Irish, German, Polish, and they didn't mind saying that they were Irish, German, but they were proud of it.
Right.
I mean, I was Mexican, was proud of it. But so going from that kind of melting pot to straight like Mexico, Man, it was challenging. It taught me how to be adaptable for sure.
Where in Mexico
100%.
did you go?
So we were in Nuevo Laredo, so right over the border.
Texas, right?
Yeah, right over the border of Texas. And so then we ended up moving to Laredo when so I think I was like 16, like at that point. And my mom wanted us in like an American high school, me in an American high school, because my brother Mark had just been born. I think he was, in kindergarten at the time or something. He was young. He's like 10 years younger than me. So, she was like, "Hey, but I want them in this school, because she didn't want us in like on the other side of the border. They have schools that are American schools and you learn things, but they're not like our American school system,
Okay.
So she wanted us, she's like, "Hey, we're moving to Texas. We want to be here and I want my kids to be in these schools." And so that's what we did.
So how long did you stay in Mexico before you went to Texas?
We were there probably like 7 months, 8 months. It wasn't long
enough to
to
get the gist of it. That's crazy.
You know what? So then in Laredo, when you're in Laredo, it's very, very, very Mexican. I mean,
it's much like being across.
Yeah, you might as well just be in Mexico, to be honest with you, because like you're speaking Spanish fluently, you're every single day. I mean, it's the predominant language.
Especially then they were coming back and forth.
A lot of people going back and forth on the border constantly. And so that was also a challenge to, again, be a northern Mexican in Laredo. And at that time, my nickname was Coconut.
Coconut.
Yeah. That's what the kids used to call me in high school. Coconut.
Coconut.
Coco. Yeah.
I love it.
And the reason why they did that is because they said I was brown on the outside, white on the inside. That's a true story, man. It's a true story.
That's funny.
And so that was, again, just a challenge. But, so I got a job cooking when I was in Laredo at a small Italian restaurant first. I went to go work for this guy that was just a phenomenal chef. Taught me how to make pasta and sauces and all these things. His only downside, and it's the downside, I mean, it's the tale of most restaurants, most restaurateurs, is drinking, drugs. A lot of people have read the book Kitchen Confidential, and in that book, Anthony Bourdain talks about like the drug use and things like that happened in a lot of commercial kitchens. And back in the 80s, that was a thing. Now it's, if there's anyone out there that's like, "Oh no, that's the life," you're manufacturing it. I mean, that's not the life anymore. A lot of these kids are so much more educated. They're so much more talented than we ever were. There's so many more resources for them to learn from, whatever. But I worked in that small kitchen for a while, and he was losing the business. I mean, checks were bouncing. I mean, the writing was on the wall. And so he gave me the name of a guy that was managing a pub restaurant. And he said, "Hey, this guy used to work for me. He's expecting you." He'd made a phone call. Now, at this point, I'm 17 years old, right? I had just moved out of my house. My mom signed on my first apartment. I'm a senior in high school. I had a very, very quick upbringing. And so, I mean, I needed a job.
Yeah.
So I go to this restaurant, and this guy's name was Fred Villarreal, a great, great, great manager. I credit him as being my first real mentor, because at that time I was cooking to survive. I needed a job. You know what I mean? I didn't really care about cooking. I didn't really care about, but this was what I knew, because it's what I grew up with. So it was like, all right, well, I can do this. I'll just keep doing that until I figure out really what I want to do with my life. Right. And, so I was cooking there, and, I graduated from high school, started college, I ended up getting my associates.
You're still in Laredo.
I'm still in Laredo.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I remember talking to my dad, and I said, "Man," I said, I'm gonna drop out of college. I'm not gonna go back. I'm gonna take some time off." And my dad's like, "Man," he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm just gonna cook for a while." And he's like, "So you're gonna be broke?" And I'm like, "Well," I'm like, at the time I was secondary education English. I wanted to be an English teacher. And I said, the reality though is if I become a teacher, I'm gonna be broke anyway. I might as well be broke and happy.
Right.
You know what I
Doing
mean?
what you want to
Instead,
do.
yeah, instead of just broke and miserable or broke and broke, So around that time, Fred said, "Hey man, there's this program. I want to sign you up for it." He said, "Now there's no guarantees, no idea what that meant." He's like, "But you're gonna have to go to Dallas. You're gonna have to stage. You're gonna have to go to this big restaurant, and you're gonna have to cook. That's what staging means. You go and you spend a whole day. Sometimes, you might do a couple shifts, and they put you in different spots, and you cook around, and you make dishes and things like that. And they test your skill set, see whether or not you even belong on the team, right? Well, this was a little different. He said, we have an opportunity. The company that I was working for, they were doing culinary apprenticeships, and he said, I want to put your name in. They're going to take like 10 people from the company, and they're going to put them in this program. The company is going to pay for culinary school. Like they're going to take care of everything. They're going to teach you how to manage and run a restaurant. And I thought,
Wow.
yeah, no, I didn't say wow. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck it. I mean, I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, so what do I got to do? He was like, I'm going to sign you up. I'm going to send your thing. He's like, I'll wait for them to call me and let me know, and I'll give you the details. Cool. So he, back then we didn't have cell phones. It's not like he was calling me. He had to wait for me to actually go to work because I didn't have a house phone. Right. I couldn't afford it. So I get to work, and he says, "Hey man," he said, I talked to them. The corporate trainer, the chef that's in charge of this program, wants to know when you can get to Dallas because he wants to wants you to come and stage. And I go, I'm like, man, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, you do the schedule. He's like, well, I'm going to give you the rest of the week off. Just go ahead and go. And I said, man, Fred, I can't afford to take a week off. He's like, nah, man, I'm going to give you vacation pay. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I said, so what do I do? He said, just go up there. They're going to put you in a hotel room to stay the night. I told him, because you're coming from, Laredo's 8 hours from Dallas. It's an 8-hour drive. He said, but just go ahead and, ask for this guy, Mike, and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, cool. So I got up there, and he said, what do you like to make? What kind of food do you like to make? Now, we were at that time, and this was a pub concept that I was working at. So I could make everything, shepherd's pies. I was making, you name it. I mean, I was making fish and chips. To this day, I make the best fish and chips on the fucking planet. But he said, what do you like to make? And I said, well, what do you like to eat? And he goes, well, what do you like to make? And I said, well, it depends. What do you want to eat? And he said, well, what do you like? What's the one thing you make the best? And I'll never forget, I was a cocky fucking 20-year-old kid. And I looked at him and I said, I can make whatever you want as long as you have the ingredients. Doesn't matter to me what it is. As a matter of fact, I said, I could probably cook better than you in your own kitchen. And he just like yeah. No, I'm being dead serious right now. This guy looks at me and he goes, how's your Mexican food? And I go, you're fucking kidding me, right? And he goes, no, seriously. He goes, how's your Mexican food? He goes, I understand you have a Mexican background. And I said, yeah. I said, well, so he goes, can you make me some enchiladas? And I said, that's what you want me to cook for you? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, dude, I've been making enchilada sauce since I was 8 years old, I said, well, if you have the ingredients, I'll make it for you. So there's a certain type, and especially a lot of Mexicans in this area that came from the area of Mexico that my family's from, when they try my sauce, they recognize like, okay, wait a minute. This is like, our sauce is like more of a mole base. And so there are very few areas of Mexico where they make it like this. So my family's from Matehuala, Mexico. That's where they're from, San Luis. And so we make it more like a mole base. And so that, like, whenever I make mole, my enchilada sauce is the base to all my different, whether I'm making a dark, a red, The only time it's not as well, it's even kind of the same base when I make more of like a green mole, depending on which mole I'm making. But anyway, so I went and back and he gave me some time. I made him some enchiladas, just cheese and onion, plain, because they really didn't have what I was looking for. Came out and gave him the plate, and he tried it, and he looked up at me and said, "Fuck, man." He goes, "This reminds me of my grandma's." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, it's my grandma's recipe." And that was it. I was in the program. Well, I mean, I had to do some more stuff. I had to prep. I had to show my knife skills. I had to show them that I knew my way around the kitchen. But I mean, that was in a nutshell. That's pretty much how it
That's
happened.
awesome. So is this the same dude where you were sleeping on the?
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
it. I remember trying to guess the name when you said
Yeah,
it.
Mike.
Said,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So you were with them a long time then. How long was you with this dude?
4 years.
That's a long
Before
time.
I moved back here, before I moved this way.
And it was still
Yeah.
at school the whole time, or I mean, what you?
No. So culinary school is only like, it was a 2-year program
Okay.
that we actually did in 18 months.
Okay.
So we went 18 months straight and we got our certification. So it's not a degree, it was a certification.
Yeah.
Same thing that like here at the community college.
Sure.
But so I got my culinary certification through them, and then or through the Art Institute in Dallas. And then, but when I was going to school there, I lived in a little town called Louisville because rent was cheap. And, but it was, so Louisville was like, 25 minutes, I don't know, west of Dallas or whatever, or west of where the restaurant was. The restaurant was like right in the middle. And so to get to downtown Dallas, where I had to go to school, I had to go through the airport. And so there was so it would have taken me without traffic about 40 minutes to get to school. With traffic, it would have taken me over an hour because Dallas is like LA. And I live in LA part-time, so I'm very familiar with that bullshit traffic.
We were just there. It was horrible.
Dude. Oh, dude, it's bananas.
It's
fucking hate it.
Imagined. I mean, we've been in some traffic, but that's next level, man.
You know what? I like where I live in LA, and I know we'll talk about that in a minute, but where my house is at in LA, I really like it a lot, but I don't like having to go downtown LA. I hate having to go to Studio City. I hate having to go to like Hollywood or West Hollywood. It's just it's a nightmare. But so Mike, I was struggling, man, because we would close the restaurant, and that restaurant, we stopped serving dinner at like 11 o'clock. And then by the time we broke everything down, scrubbed grills and flat tops, and we used to have to filter the oil every single night. It's a practice that I don't do it every single night, but I change my oil every single week. We filter the oil at least 3 times a week. But I'd much rather pay for oil, man. I fucking hate old, nasty oil. I hate it. Yes. So, but there we used to filter it every single night, which is a fucking nightmare. But, he saw that I was like kind of struggling, man. I was whooped. I was just starting to wear down. And he said, "How's things going?" And Mike was like just a rough, old school, in your face, yell at you, throw food. I mean,
Gordon Ramsay type or what?
You know what? I'm not even gonna say Gordon Ramsay, because that's bullshit.
Yeah, I get it.
That's bullshit, right?
The persona. It's not.
Yeah. Mike was just very, like, he never complimented anyone. Everyone in that kitchen, he had looks, and he would like, and you knew, okay, like, you fucked up. That's all he had to do. And you just knew, like, fuck, man. Right. But, so he never really, he became a great mentor, and I have a lot of Mike isms still to this day, 30 years later. But, he was just very, man, he was one of those guys you just never wanted to disappoint.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He put so much faith and trust in you. And even though he was mean and gruff and tough and didn't mince words, he didn't have favorites. One thing I stole from him, he used to say this all the time. Only I don't say it this way, but this is how he would say it. "I love all you motherfuckers the same, and I hate all you motherfuckers the same." You know what I mean? And that was his way of just saying, "Man, I love you, but at the same time, I hate you." You know what I mean? You're all on the same playing field.
Right.
I still say that to this day. Like, man, I love you all the same, and I hate you all the same. There's no in between, you know. But he saw I was struggling, and he said, you know, he pulled me in his office and we sat down, we were talking. And while we were talking, I mean, I was dozing off. And he said, "Here's what I want you to do." He said, I want you to bring a change of clothes, some chef pants, you know, some checkers. We used to have to wear checkers, houndstooth. He said, I want you to bring some checkers. I want you to bring your whites, and, you know, bring your tokes and your extra stuff. And I want you to keep it in the locker room, and bring, you know, a small toiletry bag. He said, I want you to start sleeping here in a booth, and I'll wake you up when I get here at 7 so you can get to school on time. And I was like, oh, you know, yes, chef. And I'm like, where am I going to sleep? He's like, just sleep in the booth. Like, just, you know, the booth in the back. Da, 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 da. I'm like, okay. So for 2 years, man, I slept at the restaurant for 3 nights a week.
That's dedication. I mean, it was the best way for you to get it done. And somebody like a mentor, like, looked out for you and saw that you were struggling.
You know what? At that time, man, I started to really fall in love with being in the kitchen. You know, I mean, I'm such a unique specimen. I mean, I truly love to cook. I mean, when I say that to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, no." I'm like, "No, no, no, you don't understand.
Right.
It's an obsession for me. I mean, I love to cook. When we get bad reviews, and I don't care, I get it. Not everyone's going to like my food, right? I mean, and there's so many different variables that come into play, right? Oh, I get it. You grew up next to a Mexican family, and this is how they cooked. And so all of a sudden you're like a fucking connoisseur for Mexican food, and they can only make it one way. I wish they had the same standard for like fucking fried chicken and hamburgers, right? But they don't. Right. Just for Mexican food, it can only be made this way because that's the way the Gonzalez family made it, or the Garcias made it. That's it. So it can't be made any other way than that. You know, we don't catch the same slack that KFC, Popeyes, fucking churches, whatever.
I see that a lot. Right? Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, we just get the fucking shit kicked out of us.
McDonald's will screw your burger up and we'll go back tomorrow.
Well, it's not even so much about going back, but that's the point, right?
Say something.
It's not even that. It's the fact that you can have 20 different places that make 20 different hamburgers 20 different ways.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But when it comes to Mexican food, it's like the gold standard is Mexican Village, Mexican town. Oh man, like I grew up in Mexico.
Well, that's one thing you taught Detroit. Me too. Yeah,
and I'm like, bro, look at man. Look at when we went to Detroit, and you go to Nancy's place.
Oh man,
right? Phenomenal.
Right.
And then you go to Xochimilco, completely different. Mm-hmm. Then you go to, you know,
El Zocalo.
Zocalo, or you go to like Las Galinas. You know, you go to every family is going to have their style.
They're all different.
And they're all radically different. So, you know, I mean, I became obsessed with tracing the food, tracing Mexican cuisine, because we really are the youngest cuisine on the planet. I mean, when you put it in perspective, when you look at, you know, Egyptian, you look at, you know, Italian or Romans, the Romans that have been around, Greek, right? They've been around for thousands of years, and their cuisine has been around. The Asians have been around for thousands of years, right? Mexican food in the form we know it today has only been around for 500 years. Think about it. The conquest started in the 1500s, right? When we were conquered. Prior to that, Mexican cuisine was fucking bugs, larvae, masa, right? I mean, fresh fruits, wild game. That was it. We didn't have domesticated pigs. We didn't have domesticated cattle. We didn't have any of that. That came with the Spaniards.
Right.
We didn't have half the spices we used today. We didn't have rice. So when you start thinking about when all those things got introduced, we didn't have wheat flour, right? So we weren't making pillowy fucking tortillas and shit. You know what I mean?
To think of it that way is crazy, because I didn't realize until you say it like that. Yeah.
So, you know, I became obsessed when, you know, I never wanted to be a Mexican chef. I wanted to be an Italian chef. My background, even in culinary school, I specialized in Italian cuisine. You know, I trained classical Italian. I mean, even I spent time in London. I wanted to be an Italian. Like, I wanted to know how to make the best pasta and the best. And to this day, I still make some of the best. I'm not going to say I make the best, you know, bolognese or anything like that. I mean, there are guys out there that are making phenomenal food, and I would never, ever, ever disrespect them in that way. But I make really good Italian food. I mean, and I still love making it to this day. But I just became obsessed though when I was in culinary school because I started seeing things that my grandma was doing that I'd learned in her kitchen at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, like, man, like she's not culinary trained, but she knew how to make a roux. She knew how to do this. She knew how to brunoise, vegetables and cut them a certain way. And she knew, and it was like, time out. Wait a minute. Like, why does she know this? And at that time, nobody in our family even knew where we truly were from
Right.
or where we got our last names, or you know what I mean? Because now
Yeah.
we're starting to, and so I kind of became the family historian. I traced our family all the way back to the 1800s when we kind of got baptized and were given our family names. It's bananas, man. It's bananas.
That is crazy that you can go
So
deep into it like that.
dude, I'm obsessed. If you ever come to my apartment, I have stacks of books on like the conquest of Mexico, the history of Mexico, the history of Mexican cuisine. Janet at the Book Nook actually helped me find. I outbid somebody in New York for the very first cookbook that came out of Mexico in
Wow.
1883.
Wow.
So it's in my safe. It's covered in my safe, and she even helped me find a Xerox copy of it. So that sits right on my living room, my coffee table. Right in the middle is that very first cookbook that came out of Mexico,
Wow.
1883.
That's crazy. I see
And
that.
and I look at it for not because I want the inspiration of cooking. I look at it to keep me humble. You know what I mean? Because I think about all the, you know, I think about all the years that it took for Mexican cuisine to get from, I mean, think about it. You know how hungry you'd have to be to eat fucking ants?
Right.
Chiquitana ants. That was a staple in Mexico's diet for a long time
Right.
before the conquest, right? Chapulines. I mean, you're talking grasshoppers. That was a big staple in our
Because it was
diet.
plentiful.
Well, because it was there.
That's what I
I don't
mean.
know if it
Yeah.
was plentiful, but it was there and we were fucking hungry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you eat it,
Eat
right?
what you can eat. Yeah.
So for me, it just, man, it keeps me so humble to think that, like my dad was a migrant. That's what brought my family to this area to begin with. My dad was working, the last farm he worked was the Iperley farm. Um, I think about that. Like I think I have no place to be arrogant. I have no place to be prideful because, you know, like I have migrant blood running through my veins. I mean,
Right.
my dad was a tomato picker. I mean, he was. I mean, some people might get mad that I say it that way, but my dad will say it that way. I mean, that's what he was, right?
Yeah.
And because of the sacrifices that they made, man, I'm so fortunate to be where I'm at. So I have no room to be prideful. It's my job to stay humble, to make sure that my children stay humble, to understand like these are our roots. This is where we came from. This is where our food came from. This is why we cook the way we cook. This is why we make food the way we make it. Our food is so clean and it's so different, but mainly because when the area of Mexico that my family was from, it was more Mediterranean in style. And that's why my grandma made food the way she made it, because she grew up cooking with olive oil. She didn't know any better. So I grew up cooking with olive oil because I didn't know any better. She grew up making rice without chicken stock and just using water and spices steeped a certain way. So that's the way I make it. She didn't use lard or bacon in her refried beans. She used olive oil and she emulsified it. She didn't know how to fucking emulsify, right? I mean, that's a culinary term.
Yeah.
But I learned in culinary school, like, wait a minute, this is an emulsification process? Holy
Right.
fuck.
Granny's
Man,
been doing it
yeah,
all
I've been
along.
doing this since I was a kid. I didn't know that.
She wouldn't have called it that, right?
No. She was just whipping up the oil and then adding it to the beans, and so that's what I did, because that's what I was taught. I didn't know any better.
Set on a path early, whether you realized it or not, man.
Yeah. So it was just a different, it's just a different style.
Yeah.
That's all. But anyway, in culinary school, I got really deep into it. And then, I don't know, man. One day I woke up and realized I was Peter Pan, the boy that never had to grow up. I get to hang out in the kitchen and I get to tell dirty jokes and
Are you
fucking
like
make
connected
tacos.
to other restaurants or what's that? Because I know there's something to do with you, what you do. Do you consult or
So I do consult. Yeah. You know, and I started that years ago with a good friend of mine. I used to have an old business partner that really got me on a consulting path. He was like, man, you know, he's like, you've got so much knowledge in a kitchen. You can really, you know, the really honestly, man, there's not much food that I can't make. My next, you know, when I let me back up half a step. When I talk about my obsession for cooking, I have to apologize to my family because they will attest to this. We don't go on typical like normal vacations. My kids will always ask me when I say we're going to go on vacation, they always say, okay, where are you cooking first? Because I find I go on vacation to places where I can find a restaurant. I always send my resume ahead to the chef that's there, and I always ask to cook for at least a couple days. And I always tell my family, like, listen, I just want to go learn. I don't care if I do prep all day. I don't care if they just have me washing dishes. I want to be in that kitchen because that guy is super talented and I want to learn from him. I still do that to this day.
wow?
So when I
I didn't
go,
know that.
yeah, when I go
Wow.
back to LA, I've already made a contact. Well, when I got picked to cook for the Super Bowl, I made a contact at Petit Trois, which is Ludo Lefebvre's restaurant in LA, and went and had dinner there and met with them and said, hey, when I come back to LA, I just want to come and cook. And they were like, well, we're not hiring, blah, blah. I go, no, you don't have to pay me. I don't care if you give me $1. Like, I just want to come and cook. And then they were like, well, like, what do you mean? Like, like, what do you want to make? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. Like, I don't want to cook for you. I mean, I want to cook for you. I want to cook here. I just want to cook. I'll do prep. I'll bring my own knives. I come prepared. Listen, these are tennis shoes that I wear every day. I always wear non-slip shoes. I mean, I don't ever buy tennis shoes that aren't non-slips, just in case I ever get an opportunity to just walk into a kitchen and cook or walk
Wow.
around.
Wow.
Even my Converse makes only one type of tennis shoe that's the closest thing to a non-slip. It's the One Star. And so a few years ago, they were going to discontinue them. So I bought 10 pair. And that's, I always wear the One Stars so that if I ever have an opportunity to walk into a kitchen, I walk in and say, man, can I cook? Can I?
I'm still stunned on this. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Crazy.
So when we went to New Orleans, I cooked at Johnny Sanchez at Aron Sanchez's restaurant, and I cooked there for 2 days.
Wow.
And then, okay, now we can vacation. But the whole time, my mind is just on like, fuck, man, I made some great food. Like, damn, like I can't believe this guy. So this is how he does his pork, huh?
That's a real obsession. I mean, you really are obsessed with cooking.
Yeah,
Definitely.
to this day, I
Really
mean, even
shows it.
now at my age, you know, I mean, I'm 50, right? Even now at my age, I still love being in a kitchen every single day. I love it, man. There's no greater place to be. I think it's helped me use some of the mentorship things that I learned along the way, and it's helped me mentor a lot of great, super talented chefs. And I can't take any credit for them. I just say I'm glad that they took the time to come work with me. I'm glad that I was blessed to be in their presence because, man, I've had some great, super talented kids that have made me look so much better than I ever will be. You know, honestly, man, that's a true story.
Yeah.
You know, but
good leadership, though.
you know what, man? I think it comes, you know, and I tell, you know, it's funny right now in my kitchen. I think our average kitchen, you know, the team is like right around 6 years. That's our average that we've had. Angie's been with me for 8. You know, Laura's been with me since 2008. She took a little bit of a break, but Laura's been with me for a long time. You know, Chris is probably our newest. He's only been with us for about 2 years. No, 3 years, going on 3 years because it was COVID when we hired him. The restaurant he was at closed and he came looking for a job. And I really couldn't afford him at the time, but I took money out of my own pocket to hire him because he needed a job and he was super talented. And so he's been with me ever since. And then like Jared has been with us for 6 years. Brendan, we helped him finish culinary school. He's been with me for 7 years.
Do a lot of your people go to culinary school?
Right now we have out of the 12 people we have in our kitchen, I think 7 of them. Yeah, and we've helped most of them. You know, Angie my head chef, Angie, we helped her through culinary school. Brendan, Eric, dang, I'm trying to think. Of course, Mike, Josh, all those guys. Yeah, they all.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Mike and Josh are at Lazy Boy doing some amazing things, but I'm a big believer, not so much on, not that you have to go to culinary school. Let me make sure I'm clear about that. You don't have to, but one thing that I'm very big on is opportunity, and I'm really big on giving yourself and really demonstrating, right? The options that are available to you when you have that piece of paper that says I did this.
Yeah.
That's all that matters, right?
Sure.
And that's the difference between somebody going to work, at a place where maybe they just go and cook, or you become a corporate trainer. I became a corporate trainer early on in my career because I had a piece of paper that said I knew what the fuck I was doing. Whether I did or not is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? I may not have known jack shit, but I had a piece of paper that said I did.
Right.
And so, that enabled me with that particular company that I was with to travel and make my way back this way.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
yeah.
The culinary schools have always been an interest of mine. I didn't pursue it. I did try it with Henry Ford for a while, but
yeah.
Life's just crazy though. You know how stuff goes, especially with kids and stuff. Obviously I wouldn't be here if I stuck with that. So
yeah,
it was very cool. Like watching my kids now find their path and wonder where they'll go with it. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Tyler working there as a dishwasher, in fact. So
yeah. You know what? He's I gotta say, man, he's such a hard worker. He's such a good kid. We really enjoy having him a part of the team.
He's a lot like me, and he's not a lot like me. It's like when I was a kid, he's got much more together, I think, than I did.
Yeah.
But he reminds me as an adult. Like now, when I look at myself now, I feel like I'm a responsible person or whatever. When I look at Tyler, I see that.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I don't see me as a kid at all. I see the adult version of what he's grown up around and what he's coming up with. So,
that's so, as you start to get into having children, and, it's cool. I've had a lot of great experiences in my life. And, I tell, especially newer parents, because people ask me about my kids. I have amazing kids, man. My kids are like fucking gold. We got super lucky, but I'll be honest, man. I've always been, this is how I am. I'm a kitchen guy. So, and my kids will attest to this, man. I don't pull any punches. If they ask me, like, here's one mistake I think a lot of parents make. They try to fucking bullshit their kids. You know what I mean? And they're hypocrites about a lot of things.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I'm not
either.
My kids knew, when they were younger, I raised them much like I do the kitchen. There can only be one guy in charge. And that guy, you have to follow the path that this guy's leading, whether you like it or not. But at some point, and I knew when that point was, where I started giving them a lot of freedom. I didn't hide anything from them. When they asked me about drugs and things like that, listen, man, I'm a chef from the late 80s, right?
Yeah.
We used to do this thing at this restaurant I worked at, and I don't really mention this too often. I'll mention it today. It's pretty fucking hilarious. But the chef that was there used to yell out, like, line up on Fridays and Saturday nights. And we would, in the back prep table, man, they would fucking cut out Coke lines. And if you wanted to, you could go fucking rim a line of Coke and then hit the line, because we were getting fucking swamped. I mean, just absolutely frog stomped. So it helped some guys. You know what I mean? I never, I'm not going to say I never did anything, because I'd be lying. And my kids have asked me, and I'm like, yeah, man, I tried that. I grew up on
the 80s is a different time.
The 80s was a lot different. The weed was different. Yeah, the weed was totally different. Growing up on the border of Mexico where I was at, we would go to Mexico when I was in high school. And, I mean, dude, there were some clubs you'd go to, and I mean, fuck, I mean, they were pre-rolled, and you were buying them like there, and you're like, all right, well, cool, let's go. It was just a different time. You know what I mean? And I think we grew up a lot faster than what, than like even what my children did. But, I've always been flat out, and I tell every parent that, like, listen, man, I truly believe God put me here to be a guide. That's it. I'm just a guide. I'm not Lord over them. I'm not, they're going to choose the path they're going to choose. Now, I can give them my experiences. I don't want to see anything bad happen to them, but I can't stop them from doing it.
Yeah, you got to,
you know what I mean? You just can't.
I know.
I mean, you can't. And I've seen parents man, beat their heads against the wall. Like, I don't know why this kid's doing this, da 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 da. And they're just constantly yelling at the kid. And I'm like, bro, you're like that little chihuahua that barks. Nothing's getting through. And then these kids come and work with me. We sit down for, every day I try to have dinner with a different employee. I try to pull them aside. I try to just get to know them and talk to them. And
Love that.
again, it's all about, well, it's how I was mentored. I mean, I had some great, great mentors along the way. One that I traveled with, Tom Simpson, great, super talented guy, super smart. And Tom always used to say, when we would talk about different kitchens that we were in and different personalities that we had to be around, Tom would pull me aside and say, hey, just remember, man, if you don't like to be talked to that way, don't ever talk to anyone that way again. And I mean, I was young. And so, when you're young and you're put in a position of authority, you think you gotta be the lion. You got to walk around and make sure people know you're the lion. Now I'm an old guy and I'm like, fuck, man, I don't need to roar. What the fuck? I mean, look, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to model a certain personality. I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be growth minded. I'm going to make sure that I eliminate any doubts or all fear with what my expectations are. And then at the end of it all, I'm going to make sure that you have some self-awareness about who you are, right? If you can do that as a leader, as a boss, no matter what it is, man, with your children, you'll be fine. You'll be good. And you'll have like that, a really good cohesive relationship, whether it's a working one, whether it's just with your children, whether it's with other family, with friends, you know what I mean? But it's about trying to make sure that you're always being consistent with who you are.
That's it, man.
Period.
Being the same person every day.
Yeah.
I always say choose your battles. That's another thing with kids. I mean, I've learned that real early on, and it's worked good for me. I really pick my battles very carefully.
I was, I was
arguing and yelling at you all the time. It's not
man,
if you got me yelling at you, you might have did something.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that don't do that. My little guy, you got a 6-year-old. So
my ex-wife used to get so upset, like when the kids wouldn't clean their room or do something else. And I would always say, but it's their room. And she would go, yeah, but we need to start teaching them. And I'm like, bro, but it's their space. Like, I don't give a fuck what their space looks like. You want your room to look like shit? Fuck, man, that's on you. You can't walk anywhere. You have clothes to wear for school. I don't care if you're the smelly kid.
Right.
That's not on me.
Right.
Now, if you don't want to be the smelly kid at school because you don't have clean shit to wear, okay, here's the rules, right? Here's what you need to do. Otherwise, man, that's on you. That doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does.
That you're just not going to stand for.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me.
And you know how it is. Like, Kayla, if you're watching, I mean, this is the best way possible. But moms be on other shit than dads. You know what I mean? They're on a whole nother wavelength than dads.
Yes.
It's always 100%. Like that. Like the little guy, people are, oh my God, he's so well behaved. He's fucking amazing. He's an angel.
Yeah.
Like, I mean it. Like, and I just chuckle and laugh. Like, oh, catch him at home on Wednesday while I'm at work. He's a good kid all around. But I'm just saying, mom does it different. And mom's not scared to whoop your ass and smack him down and stuff. I don't do that. I'm not mom.
Right. Yeah.
My mom used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Mom smacked the shit out of me, boy. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just, I don't do that. I just gotta look like, dude.
Yeah,
we're done. It's over. And I don't have to do that much. So it's funny, and that's anybody. That's not just I already know. I've noticed that in the 40 years of life that I've been blessed to be on this earth. I've noticed that the mothers, it's different. It's just the way it's got to be.
100%, man. 100%.
So when someone says a man can't raise a woman, or vice versa, in any way you want to look at it, I think it takes both.
No, I agree because like I raised my daughter Jillian to be like a guy. She's a dude.
Justice, brother.
She's a dude, man. She's a dude. I mean, I love it. I feel bad for Tyler. I'm so sorry, my man, her boyfriend. I mean, I'm sorry, but
I can see that, Jillian.
She's a dude. She can be ruthless sometimes, but she grew up in a kitchen. I mean, she went with me everywhere. She's my little road dog, and she went everywhere. She was telling fucking the best yo mama jokes and dirty jokes in the time she could talk. I mean, she'll cut you to shreds and not even think about it. She grew up super witty, but because she was around a bunch of fucking goofy ass chefs, cooks that were all witty, and that's all we got time to do.
That's fun.
Tell jokes and make food. I mean, that's it.
That's
man.
Fun, man.
So
I can see that in her. That's great. I got one like that too. I raised her by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Justice was just alone, 16 when I had her. So
Right.
I raised a little woman, but it's a dude.
Those of you watching, there you go. That's a kitchen cup right there.
He never leaves home without it.
Got to put your name on it. Otherwise, and I still
it's getting thrown out.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. So this is the kind of shit I even do at home. I drink out of styrofoam. I drink out of 32-ounce containers. Literally, I cut tops, put lids on them. Dude, it drives my family bananas. I'm like, do we have any 32s here? Like, I'll just fill up one of those with some ice water.
Let's tease Kayla and say the foam cups. I said, man, I love to drink my orange juice. Shit, the foam cups.
I just feel comfortable, man. So if you ever come to my house, bro, don't expect like nice.
He's not gonna break out the crystal.
Dude, I'll break
out the styrofoam.
And I'll give you a lid. Be like, here, put a lid on it, man, so it doesn't spill in case it falls over. You're good. I'm telling you, I'm beyond obsessed. Man, I collect cookbooks. I mean, I love it. I love every aspect of it.
I drove by the other night, seen you. Did you have all the TVs on in the restaurant?
I did.
The bar?
Yeah,
I love that. Like, that's so cool. I thought,
dude, that's my living room. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's my. You know what? I tell people
it was
they
like
think
10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Yeah. It was late. It might have been later than that. 11.
Yeah, I was actually typing up the new
sports on.
Yeah, I was typing up the new features menu. We've got some really cool features coming out.
That's dope.
So, but then of course, so cooking, man, I got to say, anybody out there that's looking at getting into the culinary field, man, I'm so blessed that I made the choice that I made because it opened up so many doors. I mean, from my first business, I still have my insurance agency. For those of you that don't know, you're looking for car insurance.
Yeah.
Tino Amaya State Farm, man. I've been a State Farm agent for 20 years. And that came about because I could cook. I mean, it opened a door and I walked through it,
So just car insurance or like life?
Oh man, we do home, auto, life. I mean, yeah. Commercial. Okay. So if you're starting a business, I mean, we can walk you through that process. And that's the cool thing about where I'm at now in my life, right? I've been self-employed now for 22 years, and being able to share the highs, the lows, the negatives, the positives. Again, my consulting business, right? So you talk about restaurants. I'm working with a restaurant right now out of Ohio, potential client. And, it's fun to be able to share the experiences that I've had and to say, look, here's where I fucked up.
Right.
Bad. And I have no problem, man. If you ever sit down with me, I have no problem admitting, I screwed that up. Oh my God, I wasted so much money doing this or that, before you figured it out.
That's how you learn, man.
It is, but it's fun now to be able to just hopefully save people from those pitfalls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, finding my way here to Monroe, being able to open up, multiple businesses here. Man, I love this town. I love this community.
I do too, man.
It's fucking amazing community.
When I found Monroe, being from downriver Detroit, it's a whole different ball
We might go over, Josh, just a little bit.
It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time. It's like when I was younger and first coming here, I was calling this place Beverly Hills because it was like, fucking get what you got here, bro.
Right.
Go down the road a bit. We was living rough at Schaefer and Fort Street.
Yeah.
I'm in that area, like Vermonter Drive, and it was rough at Rouge, and and we were just talking about that with Coach K and the difference in say football teams.
Right.
Down there were a place where they want it, man.
Yeah.
So Rouge has got a banging football team all the time because them boys work hard.
Yeah.
So, but we have it good here, even with everybody has drug addiction. Everybody has drug problems.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, cities, towns, counties, states, whatever.
Yeah, right? I've seen it,
and
been all over the country. I've seen it.
It's terrible.
Fuck, I live part time in LA. Trust me, I see it.
So many crude, nasty comments when you want to. I think that's any town. If we were in Lincoln Park, and I'm sure we had a Lincoln Park group open and said, I loved Lincoln Park with a big heart, then we'd catch shit for it. But
100%.
It bugs me, I guess.
Here's what bothers me about it is, so first I'm going to say this. As a business owner, a lot of the business owners bother me to some degree because as a business owner, I believe it's my job to be the best ambassador of this community.
Right.
It starts with me, right? I think if I'm expecting you to come and support my family and I'm expecting you to come buy my product, well, then I've got to be able to give something back in return, right? And it's not just fucking banging tacos. It's got to be something else, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is that
Tacos are banging.
thank you. I should be, volunteering my time to be a board member somewhere. I should be, we grilled out down at the homeless shelter, right? Yeah, we're going to do it again this summer, right? We're going to go down there and have some fun. I should be doing those things. I should be promoting this city and promoting this town the best way possible to attract more people. That's what brought me to Monroe. And, we originally started a restaurant in Ohio, and when we were looking to move, I mean, I looked at the demographics, the writing was on the wall. I had a meeting it was MB&T at the time. And I told them, I said, within the next 10 years, this town's going to look completely different, because part of my job when I was on the corporate side, I used to look at those metrics, household median income, the growth ratio between, the total population, and like whether it was a plus or minus and what the variances were. I used to look at all those things. And so I did this again, you go back to what you know. So when we were looking at towns to move our restaurant to, because we had expanded, we were growing. I had tried out for the show Top Chef, and this news station picked it up and blew our restaurant up from this little tiny space we were at in Ohio to like where we're at now. But I looked at the metrics for Monroe, and it was on a whim because a friend of mine said, dude, why don't you just bring your restaurant to Monroe? A lot of people know you. And I'm like, because I never believed what people thought, but I thought, man, I don't know if Monroe would support it. Nobody in Monroe really likes anything in Monroe, but
like that now sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. So, but I looked at the metrics, and when I saw like how Monroe was growing and how they were outpacing the household median income throughout the nation from a national standpoint, I thought, holy fuck. And then when I saw how it had grown from at that time, so this was 2014, 15, when we were moving up here, 2015. So I looked at, from 2010 to like 2014 or whatever. I think those were the numbers that they had at the time. Now I think it goes from 19 to 20, 21 or 16 to 21, whatever. But I looked at the numbers and I was like, damn, these guys are growing at a clip, and household median income's growing. And then the average median age in Monroe County right now, if you look it up, it's like 42.8. That's like, for most restaurants, that's your sweet spot, 25 to 45.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those people are going to choose, and they're the most loyal customers. Then after that, it's like the older people, and that's only if you offer like a senior discount. Then you got them; they're in. But yeah, right. You do the 2 4 or the free appetizer with an entree or something. But anyway, so I looked at all that, and Monroe hit, and then I started really diving into the community, and I thought, man, what a great community! Like, holy shit. And I was already ingrained. I mean, I was already here, and I was already doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We talked about earlier, a lot of people don't know me. A lot of people don't even know what I look like.
Right.
I think Mikey was with me one time when somebody walked up and asked if I knew the family at Amaya's. And I was like, oh yeah, I know them. They're pretty good people. And they're like, oh, how do you like working there? And I'm like, oh, dude, I love it. And they're like, oh, I've heard nothing but great stuff about them, and I know Tino's daughter. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And Mikey was like, dude, that really happens. I'm like, all the time. Like, people they know the name, but they don't know me. And I think I'm most proud of that, because that's my dad's name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you know my name, and you know my name in a good light, then I'm honoring my family, my heritage, my ancestors.
Have your family work with you, and mom and dad come and cook with you.
Dude. Well, my mom. Let's not get. My dad doesn't.
Dad be hanging.
Dad just hangs. Yeah, but my
cool.
mom.
That's okay. How's dad's hanging?
You know
with
what?
Me at the bar?
Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm so blessed. I started with my great grandmother. I cooked with my great grandmother when I was a kid too. So from my great grandmother to my grandmother to my mom, to me, and even when my grandma was alive, she would come in the restaurant, and I mean, this was just a few years ago, pre-COVID. She came in. She would come into the restaurant, and she'd walk into the kitchen, and she'd give me the finger. Why is your floor so? You need to sweep. How come somebody's not sweeping over here? Oh, you put too much garlic in the sauce today. There's, you know what I mean? She would kind of mess with me a little bit, but, so to have my mom there with me, She was almost every day. Now she's cut herself down to 3 days. I mean, she's in her 70s. I mean,
Yeah.
but she works 3 days a week. And man, it's such a blessing, man, to be able to have my mom there, just to kind of carry on the legacy.
I love it, man. Your parents are awesome too.
Dude, they're great people, man. They really, I was blessed.
Very loving people.
I really am blessed that for whatever reason, for whoever chose, I believe in a lot of our Aztec, the gods that we should have grown up learning about. So I do truly believe that for whatever reason, the universe chose my parents to meet when they did, and they chose for me. I mean, and you get 1 in a million, man, 1 in a million opportunity to be born to those parents.
That's awesome.
And here I am, so I mean, I really do try to do everything I can to make my family proud and to make my parents' name proud.
You've done that, I tell you, and then continue to do that. So
yeah, we try, man. We try. It's not always easy. I mean, I'm not perfect. You make mistakes along the way, but at least I can be honest about my mistakes and say, hey, man, I fucked up. Sorry. Let me make it right and move on.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So tell me about a little bit about Boss Talk.
Oh, dude. So one day Jeff Copey and I were, my partner in crime, my good friend Jeff. We actually kind of met on accident. He had opened the Monroe Nutrition.
Shout out to Jeff.
Shout out to Jeff and Monroe Nutrition. We are Monroe, yeah. So, and Kim, I mean, just incredible. You go down there, dude. She's just a ball of energy really all the time.
I know it.
But so I went down there just to kind of, support, because I support everything and everyone in town. Listen, guys, the pie's big enough. Those people that like freak out, like I was just at Royals earlier today.
Post, man.
Dude, I love those guys. Yeah, I mean, Vaqueros. I mean, I go in there. Matter of fact, I had one of my own customers stop me one time. My daughter and I went to Vaqueros, and we're sitting there, eating, and she walks over and goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, they're the competition." And I'm like, "For who? Like, what the fuck?" I'm like, "Who are they in competition with?" I said, "Because I want to find those motherfuckers and bury them." And she just like looked at me and she's like, "Well, they're your competition." I said, "Oh, these guys aren't my competition." I said, "Dude, I'm my competition."
That's awesome.
I said, "These guys are my compliment," right? Because they do it a little bit different than I do, right? You're not always going to like mine. Cool. Rock on. Guess what? There's 36,000 people that live in Monroe, in the city. Okay. I can't serve all 36,000.
Right.
I can only serve 100 at a time. So, if 35,900 and want to go over there, man, knock yourself out, bro. Like, do it. Please support them.
You taught me that early on, just about spreading it around and stuff.
You have to, dude.
I look at that very heavily now, and and it took me, Josh and I both, far in business where we realize, just consciously even now, where before I was doing it unconsciously.
Listen, you will always make more in collaboration than you will in separation.
No doubt.
Period. When you start to separate yourself and build walls up that try to shut out other people, two things it does, right? One, it shows your character, right? Number one. Number two, it shuts you off from growth. Period. You're not going to grow. You're going to be there, and that's it. That's all you're going to be doing. And you can only make so much there until people realize, like, oh, fuck, you're just in it for the money, or you're just in it for this. Okay, cool. Yeah. Especially this generation now. This generation now is a generation of why. They want to know why. Why am I going to spend my money with you? What is your process? Why do you make it this way? How, what's the difference between this and that? Like, they want to know. They want the information. So when you can say, man, I don't, like, one of my good friends, Miguel Angel, cilantros. Yeah, man. Check them out. I had somebody call me about a graduation party, and I was booked. They were like, "Oh man, we really wanted to do a taco bar." And I said, "Hey, you know what? Call my buddy Miguel. He's got a great restaurant. As a matter of fact, he'd probably just bring his food truck."
Right.
And the lady was like quiet for a second. And she goes, "You're giving me the number to a food truck?" Like, okay. And I go, yeah. Great friend. And then hour later, I get a message from him. He's like, "Bro, thank you for the hookup." Like, blah, blah, blah. But to me, again, he's not my competitor.
No, man, you're going to gain so much more. People don't realize.
Dude, he's a compliment to what I do. You know what I
Are
mean?
worth way
Because
more.
not only is he going to support me, but that customer that I pushed over there is like, wow, because that shows my character. It shows who I am. I don't give a fuck, dude. I'll make money somewhere.
There's people that'll take that forever and talk about this.
100%, man. 100%. And it's not a marketing thing. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, look, I mean, if I can help you, bro, let me help you.
Right.
Yeah, but you're going out of business. Okay. Well, this wasn't meant to be then. I'll find something else. Trust me, I'm good.
Right.
I've got a lot of skills that I can do. And if it's my time,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You and I were talking earlier, and I said, man, I'm a kitchen guy in the truest sense of the word. We have a saying in the kitchen. Everything has a shelf life. My restaurant is going to have a shelf life.
Yeah.
Right. It's just going to. So I'll leave you with this, man. So now at my age, when you say we talk about the obsession, man, I'm not cooking for money anymore. I mean, money, I've had it. I have some, not enough, but I've had it. I've traveled. I've been parts of the world I never thought I would be. I've been all over the country. A few years ago, I was blessed to be picked to cook at the Super Bowl, one of 5 chefs in the entire state of Michigan
Awesome.
to get to cook at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
I was cooking at the Super Bowl. So
oh, dude, I was stoked. I mean,
that's cool too.
I realized how old I was there, you know, because it was 3 days of
young chefs and shit too.
A lot of young, talented guys getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be there by 5 to prep and And then the day that the day of the Super Bowl, I mean, bro, it was just a long, hot day, and you're in a chef's coat, and then we were outside, and it was fucking 85 degrees. Fish tacos. Okay. Yeah, we did 1,000 fish tacos in like 3 hours.
Wow.
But I mean, we had to break the fish down. We had to portion it out. I mean, it was insane. It was like some of the hardest work I think I've done in a long time.
That's cool. So,
but I leave you with this though. I mean, I look at everything that I've been blessed to do in my culinary career, and I think to myself, man, at this point, I'm not cooking for the money or even the accolades or dude, I got plaques, I've got awards, I've got cool. That's great.
Right.
At this point of my career, I'm cooking for legacy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because
I'm living for legacy. So I could,
dude, yeah. Because I mean, because at one point, when my restaurant's long gone, there's going to be somebody that they're going to be going through Facebook. A memory is going to pop up of, we just cooked for a lady's 100th birthday party, right? And they're going to remember, man, remember when we went to Amaya's? Dude, that was so much fun. Yeah, right? When I'm long gone, there's going to be somebody here that's going to be like, man, remember that place? It was on oh man, Amaya's. Oh my God, it was so great. And again, it's not me, because they're not saying Tino Amaya. They're saying Amaya's. Yeah. Bro, that's my dad's name that's going to live on now.
So much,
for eternity. Awesome. You know what I mean? To come from like a migrant background, and again, tracing my family roots back to when we were eating fucking bugs just 500 years ago.
I know, that's nuts,
to now,
dude.
You know what I mean? Dude, I'm so humbled by that, picture, by that thought.
That's crazy. That's humbling, man.
Yeah,
that's really is.
And to think that
from that to now, I mean,
it's good, man.
It's good. On the lips of, or your name and the way you say.
Yeah, dude, we cooked for the governor. We cooked for the lieutenant governor this year. I mean, dude, I've had some. Whether you like the governor or not, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Just to be called, just to get that phone call to say, hey, would you guys be willing to do this? I was like, bro, what time?
Right. Yeah.
Now, make sure your check clears. Is that gonna be a state check, or is that like, how's this check coming?
A big difference.
There, but I mean, dude, the experiences that I've had, man, I'm so blessed. So if anyone out there, you're looking to get into the culinary industry, the culinary field, I'm going to tell you right now, if you treat it like a true profession, that's what one of my great mentors told me. If you treat it like a true profession, man, it can open so many doors, and it can take you to so many different places. Again, I mean, I've been blessed, just truly blessed, and I hope that I can pass those blessings on before my time's done.
That's beautiful. Yeah, man.
So that's it. That's me, man. That was
a good show.
I hang out, do a lot of stuff in the city. Hey, man, social district just passed. We're excited about that. We got a lot of good stuff and we could have talked about, but I bogarted it. Sorry, guys.
No, it's good. It was really great conversation, honestly. So I want to leave you with this. We talked about the Monroe County Reporters being our new sponsor, or helping us lead the way with Pillar Talk. They've got a subscriber hub that's 99 cents. what the hell are you guys doing if you haven't
Oh,
subscribed
dude,
to that?
It's so worth it.
Subscribe to 99
Honestly.
cents. I mean, these are great
It's
guys.
so
They're
worth
doing
it.
it for our benefit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the only way they make any money.
Bro, I laugh because you know you get the news from them
Yep.
literally like in real time, and then like 2 days
There's
later,
an accident. You can look up the Monroe County Reporters.
well, like
they
2
probably
days
got it.
later, like the Monroe Evening News is posting about
Yep.
it. You know what I mean? And you're like, "Fuck,
Isn't that
that's
crazy?
old news."
Yeah,
I already
yeah.
heard about that. You know,
Pay more for one newspaper to read the one time than you do this guy's whole month. So I mean,
Yeah.
99 cents.
Yeah, and they're local guys. I love
They're
that.
great guys. They really
Yeah,
are.
Yeah,
I love Ryan. I love Shane. Those are great guys.
100%.
So, and they care about the community.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people don't know them
Yes.
personally or do. They really, really, really care about the community.
Absolutely.
The reason we're even talking about this right now is that I can't try to have BrainJerk tries to have local people come on and stuff, and that's one of the reasons that Ryan and Shane have agreed to work together on this to try to get the word out and stuff. So, but that was it, man. Episode 10.
Wow.
That was a good episode.
Thank
man.
you
It was
so
a
much,
great
guys.
episode.
Thank you all so
Thanks
much.
for coming,
Appreciate
Tino.
you having me. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course,
And you know what we started talking about, Jeff? Sorry, Jeff. Then we got a little bit off track.
Yeah, the boss talk. We can finish with that.
Yeah. Let's finish with that Boss Talk Uncensored. Jeff Copey and I started the show. You know, really,
When's
it's
that
just
air?
so we air every Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Tuesday at 6.
Tuesday at 6, and the premise behind it is, you know, I'm an old entrepreneur. I'm on this side of the hill.
Right.
He's a young entrepreneur on this side of the hill. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the perspective of the new young. You know, he's taught me some things about social media I didn't know.
Sure.
I've been able to kind of teach him some things about community involvement and you know, really looking at advertising and marketing in a much different light. You know, so we've really been able to kind of help each other, and we get to interview some really cool cats, and we've had a lot of fun with it, man. It's been a good time.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. So if you get a chance,
Tuesdays
also
at 6.
all social platforms, we're there Tuesdays at 6. Boss Talk Uncensored. Shout out to Kyle Buckley. He did the theme music for us.
I get a lot of comments on the intro.
Dude, man, he did that intro spot. Just a great guy. So there you go.
Great stuff. Shout out to Kyle Buckley, man. And shout out to the BrainJerk Podcast Network.
Yes.
You can find all these great shows pretty much every day, once a day or more, airing live. You know, without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So thank you guys so much. Subscribe and like and eat some tacos. Thanks.